Hello, lovelies, and welcome to a new episode of Real Nightmares, where we compare and deduct fact from fiction and your favorite horror media. Today it is my honor to talk about the 2019 film, Ma. I know I always try to do a makeup look or some sort of look overall that is inspired by the film. There wasn't really anything in Ma I felt like I could easily do. It was suggested I sew my mouth shut, but I don't know how to do that. So I was like, I'll do like a blood spatter generic look. And then I kind of ended up looking like the accidental Mercedes look. Like Mercedes would definitely she would definitely wear this. Sue-Ann and I can be the real homicidal housewives of Northeast Ohio. She's divorced. The homicidal suburban moms of Northeast Ohio. So you're probably wondering, Ma is based on a true story? It sure wasn't advertised as based on a true story. Well, I learned directly from the source, writer Scotty Landes, that Ma was inspired by a series of real-life events in his own life, as well as some tributes to one other very real story. So while Ma, in and of itself, overall is a work of fiction, there was a little bit of truth that inspired said fiction, and we're gonna get into that, and I'm very, very excited about it. Scotty Landes is one of the loveliest people I have met thus far in Hollywood, and he is probably best known for his work writing on the show Workaholics, before then, of course, writing the film Ma, which is now a very quick cult classic. And he is also known for his very popular podcast, Bananas, on the Exactly Right network. So if you don't know him, you absolutely should. He is hilarious. Typically a comedy writer, on his off time, he mostly just consumes horror films. So why not take a break from comedy and write some horror? I've always felt the two were kind of related. The two rules I've always learned in comedy, I think, also transfer over to horror. The first rule of comedy is the element of surprise. Surprise makes people laugh. Surprise also makes people scared. The second rule of comedy is inside joke, something that everyone experiences. And I think that also adds to horror, a horrifying experience that everybody can relate to. So I would say comedy and horror are more closely related than we think as far as writing their elements. So get ready for this exclusive inside scoop as we deduct fact from fiction in Ma. Ma is about a group of teens and their parasitic relationship with a middle-aged woman, Sue-Ann. The movie centers around Maggie, a victim in her parents' divorce, forced to move away from San Diego, California, to the most boring town you could imagine in Ohio with her mom. Now, Franklin High might be brand new to Maggie, but Erica, Maggie's mother, Franklin High is her old stomping grounds. We see Maggie has basic human decency by helping Jeannie out with her wheelchair.
Your lifesaver.
Yeah, you too.
We have all been there. Erica and Maggie fit into their new town effortlessly.
How's your first day on the floor going? Is it everything you ever dreamed of and so much more?
Sure beats having a desk job.
You do have a nice house. I noticed it this morning. I'm very perceptive.
Maggie joins her new ragtag group of friends, and they all engage in a fun round of Hey Mister, which of course they bait Maggie to participate.
Hey, yo, man, this shit racist out here.
And that's when Miss Sue-Ann enters the picture. At first she tells them to fuck off, but then she sees this little cutie patootie, Mr. Andy Hawkins, and has a sudden change of heart.
This never happened, okay?
Thanks again for doing this, man.
For doing what, darling?
Yo, that old chick wants to sit on your face, dude.
Wait, you think so?
Like, your entire face.
Sue-Ann manages to stalk the kids on Facebook, making me question what year this movie takes place in. I thought ever since Facebook was officially taken over by boomers and Republicans, which I guess those are basically the same thing, that like all of the young people just don't get on it or bother with it anymore, because why would you want to have your social media be on an app where your parents are? Maybe it's ambiguous on purpose. So Sue-Ann interrupts a very tender and romantic moment between Andy's dad, Ben, and Mercedes, who is played by one of my favorite character actors, Missy Pyle.
Bite me, Bambi.
Okay. Stalinovich, Davidovitsky.
And Sue-Ann rats the kids out to Ben, who who are currently drinking at the most depressing place I could possibly think of for teens to hang out.
Yeah, sadly, this is pretty much the best drinking spot in town.
And it's not long before they get busted.
I played football with your dad in high school, and he's a dick. I'm gonna come back in 10 minutes, and all your shit out here is gonna be gone. You got it?
Next day, Erica brings Louis to the vet and meets Sue Ann, and she has a serial killer main character lost in thought moment before being snapped back to reality by another wonderful character actor, Allison Janney.
Sorry, I'm fighting a migraine.
Well, go get some horse tranquilizer. I don't care. Do your job.
Many today probably know her from her award-winning role in I, Tonya. But to me, she will always be the principal from 10 Things I Hate About You.
People perceive you as somewhat
tempestuous.
Heinous bitch is the term used most often. You might want to work on that.
They ask Sue Ann to get them more booze, and with nowhere else to party now, they get baited into going to Sue Ann's house.
This place could be incredible.
You want to see something cool?
Immediately, we're met with some intense red flags.
Get naked, boy. You are under arrest for being so dang cute. Put that thing away.
But the kids, desperate for a place to party, decide to ignore this John Wayne Gacy level of insanity.
Ma, you fucking got me.
And Ma becomes an established character in these kids' lives.
Now you know where the party is.
Throughout the film, we learn snippets of Sue Ann's true high school past, and it doesn't really line up with the stories she tells the kids.
Guys, I used to do the same thing when I was your age.
We were just gonna go to the rock pile for a little bit.
We used to hang out there all the time when I was a kid.
All put together, this is Sue Ann's full tragic past. A nerdy and quiet girl, she gets invited by the popular kids to drink at the almighty rock pile. Sue Ann goes and has a moment with Ben, and it seems he's buttering her up for something. She gets a note at school to meet him in the janitor's closet, and young Mercedes prepares her for her first, well...
Move your head. Backwards, forwards.
She nervously enters the closet and gets to work. However, when she's done...
Ben?
Surprise! Oh God, that took forever.
Back to the present, we have a mini high school reunion when Erica runs into Mercedes and Ben. Mercedes and Ben. Mercedes Ben. Was that on purpose? Probably not. I have to pause here because Missy is looking fantastic. Low-key jacked. Look at those quads. She's got a lift. She has to. Gym routine aside, Mercedes proceeds to be drunk.
You're not working here, are you? No, I just want to wear this every day and help the bar out.
And gets kicked out of the casino. Sue Ann watching the entire thing go down, preparing her next move. And pretty soon her house becomes the party spot. And just like any adult who desires to hang out with drunk teenagers, she makes it really weird really fast.
Milk did that body good.
Ma's one rule in her house is, do not go upstairs.
That old-ass ice machine.
Haley, never caring about breaking a rule, drags Maggie upstairs to go pee. And Ma finds them.
Oh, Christ, Ma! What the hell? What the fuck are y'all doing, huh? Get back downstairs.
The girls leave and Ma sends a healthy number of I'm sorry texts right before bombarding them at school trying to get them to party with her again.
Sorry, Ma, I can't. School nights suck for me.
The kids respond correctly.
Girl, you need a man. Girl, you need to watch your mouth.
So she tries to sweeten up a new group who don't know the value of a good business deal and choose to bully her. Ma snaps. With a birthday party already on the books, Ma's house fills up yet again with underage drinking. And this time, an outraged, jealous Ma drugs Maggie and steals her jewelry.
I don't want to hang out at Ma's anymore, and I don't want you there either.
Ma continues to blow up the kids' phones and they all block her.
Everybody block Ma for good.
I'm serious, that bitch is crazy.
Unfortunately, Ma receives the memo too and gets a new phone number. Ma blows them all up and baits them with tears and claims that she has the same cancer that killed Andy's mom, pulling at his heartstrings. The girls realize Ma has been stealing their jewelry.
I've been missing my grandma's ring, and my mom is gonna fucking kill me if I don't find it. And I bet she has it.
And they break in to take back what's theirs. They discover a bizarre mirror collage of themselves.
This is so crazy. Maggie?
What?
You might want to, take a...
And surprise! Not only is Jeannie Ma's daughter, she can walk! And it's clear she needs to get out more.
You have pretty teeth.
That's very sweet of you.
Ma comes home and it's confirmed some sort of Munchausen by proxy has taken place here.
I'm feeling better and I miss my classes.
You're too sick. And these doctors, they don't quite see it yet.
And speaking of Ben, he lures Sue Ann in thinking she's going on a hot date.
You look lovely.
And then bam,
Do you know what this is? It's a personal tracking device.
he confronts her about being a fucked up creep to his kid.
Why the fuck is my son spending time at your house?
I guess bad habits die screaming. But at least he was justified this time in his cruelty. Maggie comes home startled to find Ma in her house, becoming reacquainted with her mom. They are old high school buddies after all.
There's probably something wrong with me.
You don't say. After being lured into Ben's trap, Ma decides to lure Ben into her own trap. And it gets incredibly weird.
Maybe I should cut it off.
After we sneak a peek at the old midnight salami, he unceremoniously just gets got. The kids get lured to Ma's house once again, and Maggie is pissed Andy went without telling her. Apparently, Ma's goal is to get the original crew there, and her punch tonight is extra special, just for them. Even the most careful of rabbits fall for a trap every now and again. Sober Maggie goes to investigate and finds a bloody scene. She wakes up to find the original crew all leashed up in the basement, and one by one, Ma punishes them for their offenses towards her. Luckily, Maggie has a loving and caring mom who is on the case to track her down. First, she melts Chaz's perfect skin. It's not fair that he was born with it and she wasn't. Then she shuts Haley's clever mouth.
I need a man, huh?
After that, she paints Darrell for threatening her individuality and otherness. There can only be one token black person in this story. And then Andy wakes up.
You smell good. Just like your daddy. The cutest couple.
Honestly, definitely one of the more uncomfortable parts of the film. And she punishes him for being most charming and a liar, just like his daddy. The police arrive suspecting all the beer cans and trash in the yard. Ma almost gets away with it, but then... Man down. Perfect time for a cute family photo. Aren't they just the cutest? Interesting how Ma takes Maggie's place in the photo. Jeannie for the win on taking action, she starts to burn down the house. Erica shows up and saves the day and apologizes to Sue Ann. Everyone gets rescued and rushes outside. Meanwhile, Sue Ann is finally where she always wanted to be, on the inside. To live out the rest of her life next to her crush. So how much of that was based on a true story? Scotty Landes' inspiration for Ma was an accumulation of stories that happened to him in high school. He grew up in middle of nowhere Reisterstown, Maryland. Maryland. Population 25,000 people. At 16, he and his friends used to play the game Hey Mister at his local one-stop because it was 1998 and there wasn't a whole lot to do in the middle of nowhere Maryland. One day, they played a round of Hey Mister, and this odd 25-year-old some guy said sure, and he offered for them to party in his basement. Everybody went. And when I say everybody went, I mean everybody from Scotty's high school and rival high school went to this guy's house to party, which his high school was Franklin High. They did keep that true detail in the movie. They just changed it from Maryland to Ohio for some reason. But the town is more or less the same, just more Midwest, I suppose. I guess Maryland was a little too East Coast for Hollywood. I don't know. And neither does Scotty. I asked him and he has no idea why they changed that detail. Super excited to go to this insane rager, he called his then girlfriend to see what she was up to. She said that she was hanging out with a friend and going to a friend's house. So he was like, okay. So he went, grabbed his friend, and they drove all the way through the woods to this house that was in the middle of nowhere with no neighbors. There were cars parked all along the road. What the hell was that? What the hell was that? There were cars parked all the way down the road, deep in this wooded area. They walk around to the back of the house, which was the entrance to the party, and it was just cinder block walls with no door. Like, there was supposed to be a door there. It's not like a cellar door situation. Like, there should have been a door. There was no door. And it was like a dirt floor basement. One can probably assume lots of mold. It couldn't have been safe. The 25-year-old guy was the only adult. Everyone else was in high school. First thing Scotty sees when he walks through the door is this 25-year-old something guy talking to Scotty's then 15-year-old girlfriend smoking a cigarette. She lied to him. She was not going to a friend's house that night. She was going to the party, thinking Scotty wasn't going to the party. His immediate reaction upon seeing them is, if this guy finds out I'm dating her, he's gonna beat me up in front of everybody. He was so convinced that this guy was gonna beat the shit out of him if he found out that he was the girl he's talking up's boyfriend. His girlfriend panicked when she saw him, and they had like a minor low-key fight. They didn't want to raise any alarms. Scotty made rounds at the party saying hi to everybody, hanging out a little bit before he and his friend eventually left. He just wasn't gonna risk having anything bad going with that guy. This was Scotty's first instance of being like, why does this grown adult want to hang out with a bunch of teenagers? Creepy 25-year-old guy hitting on 15-year-old girl, a tale as old as time. If you're watching this and you're a teenage girl currently talking to or dating a 25-year-old guy, or just a grown adult in general, just know that every other grown adult in existence sees and recognizes that guy as a total fucking loser. So if you think you're dating a cool older guy who thinks you're different from other girls because you're special and you're mature for your age and you're just different, he actually just knows you're easier to manipulate than grown women and is a pedophile. I don't care if he's in a band. I don't care if he's famous. You're dating a creepy loser who is one tweet away from being cringe and canceled. And that's embarrassing, right? So you should probably just break up with him now. And then once you're 25, you can see just how fucking weird that is, because I can tell you you're not going to be into 15-year-olds. Second time teenage Scotty had an experience like this was when a friend of his had a very wealthy aunt, and whenever her husband would go out of town, she would let the teens party in her basement. And this was a nice basement. We're talking pool table, ping pong table, a heavy bag for boxing, and she would just stand on the stairs and watch the teenagers party.
You guys, happy hour is from 4 to 6.
At first, it would just be like 6 of them hanging out, but pretty soon word spread and everyone started going to this woman's house to party when her husband was out of town because
I heard she lets you do basically anything.
Well, sweetie, if you're gonna do it somewhere, I would rather you do it under my roof. Would you like an Aperol Spritz? Or a tequila soda. She would go around and compliment all of the girls like, ooh, your butt is so cute, and you are just so pretty, and you are just as cute as a button. Everyone thought she was nice and cool, and she even flirted with the teenage boys, saying things like, don't call me when you're 18. I like to envision that she winked. I'm sure she didn't wink. I'm probably adding that for flair, but it's pretty good flair.
We need to talk about your flair.
Really? The first time they partied there, it was really exciting. They were drinking there with an adult who was buying alcohol for them. But her only rule was do not go upstairs. The next party at this aunt's house, like 60 kids showed up. Someone even brought a keg. When I say shit got wild, like there was a couple having sex under a fitted sheet in front of everybody, including the aunt, and she just watched. Because that's super normal adult behavior. Scotty needed to pee, but there was a couple hooking up in the bathroom, and he couldn't go upstairs, so he decided to go outside and brave the Maryland snow as it was winter. And he walked all the way to the edge of the property in the backyard and found some bushes and relieved himself. Right when he turned around, the aunt was standing right behind him and said, "What the fuck are you doing? If my husband sees yellow snow here, he's going to kill me." "Oh, I'm so sorry." But she interrupts and says, "You can't come back in." Damn, that died. All right, let's stop this. She interrupts with, "You can't come back in." Luckily, Scotty was very popular and everyone liked him, so her niece, who was the hookup for these horny basement auntie parties, she was like, no, he's nice. Please let him back in. He didn't mean it. But the aunt was very weird and stern about the whole situation. The memories and weird feelings at these two parties haunted Scotty for years. He really thought this woman was gonna call the police on him or call his parents or something. Like, she was just so intense and it just felt like it came out of nowhere. And remembering the fear that, you know, he might have been in harm's way at that 25-year-old guy's basement party. Like, all of these strange and unusual, like, feelings he hasn't experienced anywhere else stuck with him. Over the years, he noticed that everybody seems to have a story like this about some sort of an adult who let them party at their house as a teenager. And the universal feeling once we are grown up is that that was kind of weird. It was weird because now that we are adults, we recognize we would never do that. So it's like in retrospect, realizing we were dealing with unusual adults. Possibly dangerous and creepy adults. And it doesn't really matter what their motive was because it's a form of manipulation. You can control the kids and manipulate them by being like, "Hey, I can get you alcohol, you can party at my place, I can let you do something you can't do anywhere else." Scotty was working on the show Workaholics and was trying to get comedy movies made and just couldn't seem to get anything produced, even with established talent attached. In his free time, he only really watches horror movies, and the more he talked about it with his friends, the more the topic of these weird basement parties came up, and he kind of came to the conclusion that these weird basement parties run by creepy adults was almost a universal experience in America. I mean, there's always going to be an adult somewhere who says,
"I would rather you be safe. You're gonna do it somewhere, might as well be here, right?"
instead of the normal thing, which is don't drink and do drugs. I am way more intense on this knowing now that your brain isn't even fully developed until 27.
Yeah, what a mean fact to yell at someone who's not 27. But I Googled it and that fact is real.
Like, actually.
And that fact is proof that God is a man. Because who else would finish your boobs years before your brain? That's garbage.
And to an extent, it is kind of a universal experience. Even I had that same experience in high school. I had one friend whose mom would let us sleep over and everyone would drink and smoke cigarettes. I also knew a couple 20-something odd old guys who had an apartment near my high school who would let us throw parties at his apartment. Why he let us do this, I don't know. And I know he was in his early 20s, but I never really got what age. So during Scotty's brainstorming, he kind of noticed that they don't really make teen horror movies like they used to in the 80s and 90s. I mean, movies like Scream, I Know What You Did Last Summer, Nightmare on Elm Street, they're all centered around teens experiencing something horrific. And decided he wanted to bring this long celebrated genre of teen horror back to life using this creepy and seemingly universal experience. I say seemingly universal because I know not everybody partied in high school. I know there's gonna be people in the comments being like, "I didn't go to parties in high school. I didn't know adults like that." That's great. I am so happy for you. I'm so glad that you didn't party in high school. Thanks. I see you, you're seen. But we're talking about everybody else here. So Scotty combined these two feelings and adults into one character. He chose for the antagonist to be a woman because people inherently trust women more than men. Women are assumed to be protectors of children, where it's easier to assume a man is a predator of a child. And the inspiration of Jeannie's character was actually the very real Gypsy Rose Blanchard. Gypsy Rose is a story many of us already know, especially since she had gotten a considerable amount of media attention this year. This story is also how Scotty learned about Munchausen by proxy, which is a mental illness and a form of child abuse. The caretaker of a child, most commonly a mother, either makes up fake symptoms or causes real symptoms to make it look like the child is sick. For those of you who already know the story of Gypsy Rose, you can probably skip forward a couple minutes, but for those of you who don't know the story of Gypsy Rose, well, buckle up, Buttercup, you're in for a wild ride. Gypsy Rose Blanchard was born July 27th, 1991 in Golden Meadow, Louisiana, to 24-year-old Claudine Dee Dee Blanchard and 18-year-old Rod Blanchard. Right out the gate, at 3 months old, her mother Dee Dee claimed that Gypsy had sleep apnea and kept taking her to the hospital. And once Gypsy was up and walking, Dee Dee told her that she had muscular dystrophy and insisted she use a walker. At around 8 years old, Gypsy was in a motorcycle accident with her grandfather and was rushed to the hospital. Her mother claimed that the doctor said Gypsy had to be in a wheelchair and use a feeding tube from now on. Pretty shortly after this, Dee Dee also told Gypsy that she had leukemia and would shave her head to make it look like she was going through chemo. Rod divorced Dee Dee but was an active father in Gypsy Rose's life until she was about 10. You see, when Gypsy Rose was 10, she believed she was still 8 because Dee Dee was lying to her about her age, and Rod, quickly learning these lies, didn't like it, didn't support it, so Dee Dee was very quick to shut him out of their lives. Rod did, however, fully believe that his daughter needed a wheelchair and special needs and medication. But he just didn't know what to do about the weird stuff about Dee Dee lying about her age and all that. In 2005, Hurricane Katrina hit, forcing Dee Dee and Gypsy Rose to relocate to Missouri. While in Missouri, Gypsy Rose was honored by the Olay Foundation, which advocates for the rights of feeding tube recipients, as the 2007 Child of the Year. The whole time, Gypsy knew she did not need a feeding tube and could walk. But she continued the charade out of fear of her mother. In 2008, Habitat for Humanity built them a small home with a wheelchair ramp and a hot tub, and the two moved in. The story of a single mother with a severely disabled daughter forced to flee Katrina's devastation received considerable local media attention, and their neighbors often pitched in to help Dee Dee care for her super sick and sad child. And everyone who looked at her just felt so much sympathy as they look at this 4-foot, 11-inch girl who had a lot of missing teeth, little to no hair, big dorky glasses, and a squeaky little high-pitched voice.
I'm going to Children's Mercy Hospital to see my dentist.
I don't know why she was missing so many teeth, but looking back on it, I bet her mom was removing her teeth to make it look like when a kid loses their teeth and their adult teeth haven't grown in. I bet it was for that reason, and that's so gross and sick. Oh my god. But she looked like the sick child her mother claimed her to be, and everyone bought it.
She even got to meet country superstars Miranda Lambert and then husband Blake Shelton.
I think she gave Dee Dee and Gypsy money.
Yes, she did. Look at this $3,500 check from the singer's personal account.
Whenever they left the house, Dee Dee insisted they take the oxygen tank and feeding tube. Gypsy Rose was fed Pediasure well into her 20s. Dee Dee was always holding her hand in the presence of others, and if Gypsy Rose ever said anything that made someone question about whether or not this was real, Dee Dee would squeeze her hand really hard, and then when they were in the privacy of their own home, she would hit her with either her hand or a coat hanger. Once Gypsy Rose turned 18, Dee Dee forged a birth certificate claiming that she was born in 1995 to keep claims that she's a teenager and not an adult, and she can continue to be her primary caretaker. For 14 years, Gypsy Rose was unsure what her age was. The pair attended nerd conventions a lot, as those spaces tend to be very kind to disabled people as well as children. Gypsy Rose in 2011 decided to have a escape attempt, I think. She had met a man online and met him at the convention and disappeared to be with him. Dee Dee found them and presented the fake birth certificate, which is such a weird thing to just keep on you, and threatened to call the police. After the fact, Gypsy claims that Dee Dee smashed her computer with a hammer and threatened that she would do the same to Gypsy Rose's fingers if she ever tried to do it again. Gypsy Rose also claims that her mother would chain her and handcuff her to her bed for 2 weeks. Although when the police investigated the house, they didn't find the handcuffs or the chains, so that, legally is hearsay. But, I could see that probably happening. I don't know. Later, Dee Dee told Gypsy that she had filed paperwork with the police that she was mentally incompetent, so if she ever went to the police for help, they would not believe her. But by 2012, she got her internet privileges back, or somehow found a way onto the internet, and that's when she developed a relationship with Nicholas Gojan, who they met, of course, through a Christian singles website, because that's always where you're going to meet the most mentally stable people. And by 2014, they maintained their relationship, and she even confided in her younger neighbor, Aaliyah Goodmansey, about it. And of course, Aaliyah was like, oh no, this is probably some older creepy guy taking advantage of this young teenage girl. Neither of them having any idea that Gypsy was actually in her early 20s at this point, and just kind of kept a mental note, but didn't rat her out to her mom.
My daughter has the mentality of a child, you're talking to her about teenage girl thing.
Gypsy Rose then convinced her boyfriend to come visit her. They concocted this plan that they were going to meet at the movie theater, and it was going to be an organic meeting in front of her mom and naturally develop a relationship from there. This worked. This actually worked. Dee Dee didn't suspect anything, and Gypsy Rose actually even led Nicholas to the bathroom where the two of them had sex for the first time. And what a way to lose your virginity. I gotta say, that is one for the books. And to have the way you lost your virginity be part of a wildly public story for everyone to just Google about is also crazy to me. I can't help but feel like I would have just left that detail out of the story in the interview. Their relationship bloomed, and just like any sane couple, they decided it was time to kill her mom. Yeah, no, he couldn't have just called the police and told them to investigate a Munchausen by proxy situation. No. They were like, yeah, we have to kill her. Obviously, it's the only choice. We can't do anything else here. So, June of 2015, Nicholas Gojan flew to Gypsy Rose's house. While Dee Dee was asleep, Gypsy Rose let him in, allegedly gave him duct tape and a knife, and she hid in the bathroom while he did the dirty work. You see, she didn't want to hear the screams. Dee Dee was stabbed 17 times in the back. That's a lot for a boyfriend. Kind of looks like a crime of passion, maybe. My God. Either Gypsy Rose stabbed her mother 17 times with all of her years of pent-up rage, or Nicholas is a psychopath. After the murder, naturally the two had sex and stole $4,400 in cash, but not before making a Facebook post on Dee Dee's Facebook, "The bitch is dead," and then commented on the post saying, "I fucking slashed that fat pig and raped her sweet innocent daughter. Her scream was so fucking loud. LOL." LOL, that's how you know a millennial posted it. When you publicly post you murdered somebody, you have to end it with LOL. Literally can't end any serious phrase without LOL. Something about that just gets to me. Oh my god. Oh my god, I just murdered my mom, so silly. Lol. My generation is so fucking unserious. Because we can't afford anything. We're living like we did in college, but we're in our 30s. So, the couple flees to a motel where they went out and got caught on multiple security cameras. Many witnesses saw Gypsy walking around with a blonde wig and without a wheelchair. The Facebook post, of course, alarmed the neighbors and they alerted the police. Police went over to the house, found Dee Dee's dead body, found that Gypsy was missing without her wheelchair, feeding tube, and medications. The neighbors freaked out thinking like, oh my god, she could die. Like, we have to raise a GoFundMe, medical bills, and they didn't even know if she was going to survive without all that stuff. And Aaliyah Woodmansee, the neighbor, told the police about the secret online boyfriend and remembered his name. So at this point in time, Gypsy and Nick had mailed the murder weapon back to Nick's house in Wisconsin, and the two of them traveled back to his place in Wisconsin together. So the police traced the IP address and went straight there and arrested both of them. Gypsy Rose pleaded guilty to second-degree murder and got 10 years in prison, while Nick was found guilty of first-degree murder and was given life in prison, no chance of parole. And Gypsy Rose made a big splash in media this year because she was released early from prison as she served 8 of her 10 years sentence. So Gypsy Rose was definitely an inspiration for the character Jeannie, so much that the name Jeannie is actually a nod, an acknowledgement to Gypsy Rose. And in Scotty's original script, he had written that Jeannie locks her mother into the burning house and thus kills her, which Jeannie killing her mother would have been a second nod to Gypsy Rose. But they changed the ending. They didn't want that for some reason. They gave her the frying pan scene and stuff, but I don't know. I think it would have been so cathartic and good to have had Jeannie have the final blow, but like, that's just me. And apparently that's the writer's opinion too, so glad to know. It's always glad to know your opinion is on par with the actual writer of the movie. It's validating. Scotty was so fascinated by the concept of Munchausen by proxy, he knew he wanted to incorporate it somehow into this film. He was trying to create a mystery for the kids to discover upstairs. What is she hiding upstairs? Why can't we go upstairs? And Munchausen by proxy also steals any normalcy a child could ever hope to have. And to dangle the teens having fun of Jeannie right in front of her is just so cruel and unusual. It just added to the cruelty and abuse she was already experiencing. To add in a little more fun facts and flavor, the relationship between Maggie and Andy was actually a reflection of Scotty and his high school girlfriend. This scene is word for word how Scotty asked his girlfriend out, and her response is word for word what she said to him. Now, is Ma based on a true story? No, but Ma was inspired by real life events, and it was really fun talking to Scotty Landes about it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you have any thoughts in the comments, anything you want to add. And as always, continue to recommend movies for me to cover. I love when you guys give me suggestions. I have a huge list and I promise I plan on tackling it. And don't forget to keep it creepy. And stay away from creepy adults who want to party with teenagers. That's just weird.